I'd like to start off by saying I'm not a communist. Wouldn't even matter if I was, because this is America, and you can believe what you want. But I was teaching my students recently about communism and socialism and capitalism. And communism, in theory, everything is shared and owned by the public. Everything is for the greater good of the public, the community, the collective, right? And in theory, there is no government because we run ourselves, we share everything, and there's no concept of private property. And so the analogy that I give my students is y'all got coats, hopefully for the most part, in the winter. It's your coat, and then we have individual lockers, and it's your locker, and you put your coat in your locker, close it, lock it, that's yours. Under communism, we would have one large closet, and we would put all of the coats in this large closet, and whoever needs a coat gets a coat, right? So if you have two coats outside of communism, if you have two coats and someone has zero coats, they're still your two coats, and you can lend it to them, you can give it to them, but still your coat, right? Communism would say, no, it's no one's coat, it's our coat. We share the coats. Whoever needs the coat in this moment gets the coat. And it's interesting to see students start to critique that with this concept of that's mine, this is mine. It's not yours, it's mine. And I'm not saying they're wrong, and I don't even necessarily disagree with them. I don't think there's something wrong with property. But I was recently driving through this suburby area, and there were just these houses, and there were these fences, and I was thinking that it's so easy for us to think of mine. This is me. This is my house and my yard and my fridge and my food. And we get away from the we. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having a house and property. But it's just interesting how we forget. Jesus Christ talked about love thy neighbor as thyself. And Mr. Rogers said that everyone is your neighbor. And we're so quick, and I don't know if it's it's a cultural thing, but also is it naturally a human thing, to your circle of us and them. This is the we do this, and if you are outside, you are a them, you are an outsider. And it's not just limited to Americans and non-Americans. It is whatever the circle is what you make it, of who is within your circle and outside of it, the us and the them. And you are much more willing, I would be much more willing to share a coat with my brother than I would be, or my best friend, than I would be with a random stranger. But that random stranger could be a part of me and we, and they are my neighbor, right? And I should love my neighbor. I should help my neighbor. If I have something to give my neighbor, I can't, I think about this, if I see a homeless person, I could give them money, but I'm not going to give them my car. I'm not going to give everything that I have, so then I'm also in a sticky situation. But do I have the means to help others? Where can I help others? How can I help others? And in my mind, I'll have a line in a song, if the other were my brother, maybe then my perspective would change. What is it? What are the walls that I've created where I view people as them? I've said this before, the Eagles and the Cowboys fan. When I see a Cowboys fan, I identify them as that's a Cowboys fan. And I immediately make judgments about them. I'm not going to throw a rock at their car, but I see them and I'm that's a them. They're not part of we. What are all of the things, all of the identifiers and labels that I subconsciously have that separates people from being my neighbor and me providing love and care and empathy? Something to think about.